Welcome to Out of Place, where we speak to the ones who are challenging the status quo, leading from curiosity, doing things differently, and above all, have felt out of place somewhere along the way.
We've got real stories, honest lessons, a few laughs, and maybe some tears about building an aligned business and life from people who've been there, are there, or just getting started. We're your hosts, Anne and Paul.
You're exactly where you need to be. Let's get started.
Welcome back to Out of Place. Today I'm thrilled to introduce our guest, Arjun Lall, whose career journey is a masterclass in having the courage to follow your calling, even when it means walking away from 2 decades of success. Arjun spent 20 years as a corporate partner at a top law firm specializing in domestic and international capital markets, navigating complex equity and debt transactions. By all conventional measures, he had made it, but something was calling him in a different direction, towards breathwork, toward yoga, toward a different kind of practice entirely. Now a certified yoga teacher and trained breath coach, Arjun has completely reimagined what it means to guide others. At Ujjayi Movement Studio, he teaches yoga, mindful movement, and breathwork, not from a theoretical perspective, but from a lived experience. His own journey through athletic pursuits, injuries, and deep self-exploration has given him a unique perspective on what the body needs and what the breath can unlock. Arjun's philosophy is beautifully simple yet profound. When you own your breath, no one can steal your peace or your happiness. He draws daily inspiration from his family, his students, and the transformative energy of conscious breathing itself. Welcome to Out of Place, Arjun.
Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you so much, Anne. It's absolute honor and pleasure to be here. And thank you for the beautiful introduction as well. Makes me sound very grand, but thank you.
You just stole my words, Arjun. Yes, and thank you for that introduction. And I have been secretly excited for this podcast for a few weeks now. We did attempt to record a few weeks ago and obviously had a few technical difficulties. But just a bit of context in the background of things is Arjun and I met on a breath science practitioner course. Probably going back, we probably finished it about 8 months ago. And I still recall that first introduction to the group session that we had. And when you started sharing just a couple of minutes of your story, I was just, I would love to know more about your life, about your philosophy for life, about the transitions that you've been through. So I'm really, really excited to dive into the session today. And I think we're just going to kind of jump straight into it. We're going to start with that kind of decision that changed everything, and then maybe work our way backwards a little bit. After about 2 decades as a successful corporate partner, specializing in capital markets, there was a moment, or potentially a series of moments, that made you kind of realize that you wanted to leave law behind and follow this entirely different path. Could you walk us through that kind of period, those moments that you experienced that led to that transition and that change of career? Because it is a big change from legal to what you do now in the holistic and wellness space.
Great starting question, Paul. I always had this nagging feeling at the back of my soul, I would say, that I was meant to do bigger and better things. Yes, I was I was working with a great law firm. I had the best boss I could ever ask for, the most amazing colleagues. I was doing well, but I always knew somewhere that I was meant for bigger and better things. One could say that it was the first 42 years of my life that brought me to that point of inflection, where I could actually have the stamina and the capacity to make that jump. But what really was triggering for me was classically a series of unfortunate events. I went through a hard time in my personal life, maybe around 2012, 2014, got divorced. My mom's a yoga teacher, and she's been insisting that I do yoga and breathwork all my life, literally. And like any good son is. If mother says do, son says no, will not do. And that's exactly what I did. But finally, I think in 2012, 2014, I finally agreed and I said, all right, mom, let's explore this world of yoga and breath. I've always been very physically active. I've played sports at number of levels from the country to domestic level. Let's try this modality and see what this is all about. And it was the philosophy of yoga combined with the power of breath that just had me gobsmacked. Um, Obviously, at that point of time, there was no clarity that this was going to be my future path. But I knew that the breath offered me something that none of the other sports that I'd ever played offered me. It offered me something that none of the other drugs that I had tried ever offered me. It offered me perspective from a place of stillness. And slowly over time, as I spent more time with my breath, I realized that progress is built on stillness, capacity is built on stillness. And I sat with that for a little while, maybe a few years actually. Uh, the only person who I took into confidence at this point of time, and weirdly enough, was my boss, the managing partner of our firm. And he was well aware of this internal dichotomy that was building inside me, and me trying to figure out what my life's purpose is. Um, I think it was just pre-COVID where I finally decided to take the plunge. And obviously, the first person I took into confidence was my boss, that I was doing it, and he was fully supportive of it. I'd had a bunch of other conversations with him in the past, and he's a very astute man, and I love him and respect him to death. And he played all the cards right. He put the carrot in front of the proverbial donkey, i.e., me. He used his stick sometimes to keep me engaged. The donkey again, me. But I think he also finally realized that you need to let the baby bird fly out of the nest, and you really can't keep the bird in the nest at all points of time. And if you really trust your own upbringing, you will trust that the bird will fly, and it may come back, it may not come back. And he's a very very wise man, and finally agreed to really let me go. I think the real tipping inflection point for me in this entire 7 year journey that I've encapsulated in 3 minutes was a shift in perspective in my own head. I think I was always looking at my life, going, "What is my life's purpose? Uh, what am I doing on this earth? What have I been born for in this body and soul?" But I think during breath work, and I'll keep coming back to the breath because that's my anchor for 99% of things that I do in life. During one breathwork session, I actually reframed that question to my own self and asked myself the question, what purpose does life have in store for me? Uh, to me, that was a big shift. Uh, from asking the question of what is my purpose in life, it was a little self driven, a little ego driven. But the minute I changed the question of what purpose does life have in store for me, I suddenly became the entire universe of possibilities was open. I suddenly became a student of everything and anything that I really wanted to be. And that's when, during one of those breathwork sessions itself, I got very clear guidance from the spirit that this is your path, is to spread the beauty, the diversity, the power, the connection, the nervous system regulation, both the science part and the woo-woo part, and that's what I was very clearly told, that that's what I got to do, is spread the message of that. You combine that with movement, you combine that with mindfulness, and that's something that I really need to do. I think it was a deeply healing point as well, and it was part of my own healing journey, I would say. I think that's what I really needed at that point of time as well, because we all know what corporate law is like. Yeah, we work a lot, we work hard, and we always work at other people's timelines and deadlines. And I think part of my own nervous system needed that healing at that point of time, and I found profound value in that. And I think it was kind of interspersed and layered that my healing journey is going to be part of what I take to the world, if it were. I've been on this path since just pre-COVID. It was absolutely beautiful. I put in my papers. I was on my gardening leave, and then COVID happened, and it was the most beautiful easing out of the corporate world into this slow life that I could ever have asked for. The timing was just perfect.
Arjun, there is so much that I want to dive into from what you just shared with us. And I'm sure some of it's going to come out throughout the remainder of the questions. But something that really stuck out for me was the thing around the ego. And maybe this is just my perception, but certainly post COVID in the social media world, we have seen a lot, and myself included, I'm not excluding myself from this, of people trying to find their purpose, but potentially finding their purpose, from a place that maybe isn't grounded because we're going through this healing journey. The way that you framed it was really beautiful. It was no longer about what is your purpose, it is what is life's purpose for me. It's becoming more, I guess, of a collective type perspective that you have. Is that correct? Is that a good way of describing what you shared with us?
I think good things or bad things, we all look at it from the lens of why did this happen to me? We always look at the glass and we go, oh, it's half full. But again, I think it's one of my very dear friends who said this to me. Stuff doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. There is a larger divine plan in the cosmic universe, the larger energies, without getting too deep into yoga philosophy. Let's just call it destiny for now, right? If I am looking at that glass with saying, what is my life's purpose? I'm always seeing that glass is half full. But the minute, in my mind at least, when I reframe that question, or when the question was reframed for me, it was just a glass. And the possibilities of whatever you could put in the glass were endless. It could put water, it could be full of air, it could be full of love. It was just endless. It was just a vessel, as we are as human bodies. We're just vessels. It's the soul that is of gravitas. It's the soul's journey that we're really talking about. The glass is just exactly like that. That was my shift in perspectives. I just stopped seeing the glass as half full or half empty, the proverbial question. It was just a glass. And you could fill that glass with whatever you so chose, whatever you open up yourself to, all the possibilities of whatever life has in store to offer. It's when we're always searching for something, we're kind of doing so with blinders. We have a goal. We know that's something tangible that we really want. But if you come out of the searching mode and just say, I'm open to whatever possibilities that life has in store for me, you're in alignment. And in that place of alignment, in that seat of alignment, you will get direction, you will get guidance, you will get comfort, you will get everything that you really need, frankly.
That's a really nice way of looking at the world and the perspective change that you've had. Do you feel that when you transitioned out of that legal career into breath and movement, that there was any kind of common thread that still existed between those two seemingly opposing worlds, or any skills that you took through into the work that you do today?
Oh, absolutely. Great question. I would say that everything before I made the shift, the last 42 years of my life before I made the shift, I carry forth every single thing that I have learned along the way into this new avatar of mine, if I can call it that. Just to give you a bit of a background, I was a pretty shy, introverted kid when I was growing up. I used to stammer and stutter a lot. So immense stage fright. I would not be able to go up and stand in a room in front of 5 people. I would not be able to even open my mouth. But if you look back in hindsight, what does a shy, stammering, little introverted boy end up choosing, or what does life end up choosing for him as a profession? A lawyer. All he has to do is talk and convince people and address people and present arguments and so on and so forth. And being in the legal field through law school, as well as being in the legal industry for 20 years, gave me that confidence, that ability to be able to look at myself with a bit more softness, I would say, maybe a little bit of love. It helped me overcome my stammering and stuttering problem. Now today I can have this podcast with you. I can stand in front of 1,000 people and extol endlessly about how beautiful the breath and the human body and the human mind is. Yes, I can give you a number of instances. Like I said, I started stammering when I was 7, and now we're having this conversation when I'm 48. But that's that entire journey of the last almost 40 years is something that I carry with me today. Um, just to give you a few more nuggets of what I think I carry and stuff that's framed my perspective or my outlook in my teachings, if I can really call it that. They're really not my teachings. I'm just a vessel. I'm just a medium, just communicating. Is trust. I trust people blindly. The entire legal industry, at least the not the criminal court system, but the just the corporate law system and the civil system is based on a foundation of mistrust. If two people trusted each other, we wouldn't need to have contracts which are written like encyclopedias detailing every single possibility. If we really trusted each other and respected each other, we would find a way to make things work in any business scenario, in any relationship scenario, right? But the very foundation of an industry like law is based on mistrust. That rankled me somewhere deep down inside at a very soul level. I was just never comfortable with that. My philosophy in life today is anyone who walks in through the door, I trust. I trust completely and totally, because there's a sense of purity in that. It's a sense of I love, not because who you are or what you do, but I love or I see you for what you are simply. And if you were to stab me, that's absolutely fine. That's your karma. That's not on me. So my entire relationship on how I see people, in terms of even first timers, trust is a very important virtue or value that to me is really important. I'll trust you on the face of it at day one. And I think that's a very key foundation of people who walk into our doors at our studio is people I think sense and feel that a lot, and they realize it's a safe space where they are trusted, they are seen, they are heard, and we don't need to worry about mandates and engagement letters and time clauses and your 1 hour of your session is over, you have to please leave the room. It's not. I think that's a very key part of what we bring. And obviously on the admin side of things, I ran 3 offices for a number of years for our firm. So I'm not the most organized person, I'll be honest with you. I live a little bit in my head sometimes. But yeah, all the stuff about having back-end systems in place, having ideas, how to grow a business, all of the teachings and learnings and how to manage people, all of the stuff that I learned through working at the firm and through my ex-boss, all of that I slowly carried through. But that's more on the admin side. I think for me, the 2 biggest things is one is how I see myself has changed, and I carry that with me still, and how I see everyone else around me has also changed dramatically, and I carry that with me or with us through everything we do.
A couple of themes that I picked up on as you were talking, and which really made me feel quite kind of content and safe just in this space on the podcast, was that talk around the self-compassion, which it's an easy word to say, but it is a hard skill to practice. Self-compassion leads to collective compassion. If you can hold self-compassion within self, it's easier to be compassionate for those around you. And then that compassion for me kind of transfers into that ability to trust. If we're all walking around with compassion for other people, it probably makes it easier to trust. So has that been a journey for you in how difficult has that journey been in building that self-compassion?
It's still ongoing, Paul. I'll be honest with you. I don't think it's, and I think it's going to be, if you really ask me, and that's that question that you just asked goes to the heart of who I am and what my journey is in this life, what I believe is my journey in this life. I'm getting goosebumps.
And my heart's beating as we talk about it.
But I'm feeling a little emotional. But yes, to me, that's my life journey. again, I mean, hindsight is beautiful, but if you combine it with breath, and again, here I go, breath, right? If you combine hindsight with breath, you really have the ability to look back on your own life and look at it and see patterns. You can see patterns in swirls that have repeated in your own behavior, of events and circumstances that have repeated themselves, of how you have handled the same situation presented differently in the same manner. And you have the benefit of all these patterns. And it's really, to me at least, the breath is what helps you separate, the wheat from the chaff. And you can see what these patterns really are, and what they're a mirror, they're a reflection of who you really are, both on the positive side as well as your insecurities and your fears and all of that. So a large part of my own journey is around loving myself a little more. Um, I think I would just say that yes, it is about just loving myself a little more. Uh, Somewhere along this path of trying to be a successful lawyer, or trying to be appreciated in society, or trying to be loved by other people. And I can, through law school particularly, um, I did a lot of things that I'm not proud about. Let's be honest. I did a lot of things that I'm not so proud about. I always had this bit of identity crisis, wanted to be like someone else. But if I really go back to the heart of it was all because I was just seeking acceptance. I was just seeking, not because I had a bad upbringing. Trust me, my parents love me to death. They gave all the safety and all the love and all the freedom that any child in the world could have asked for. But like I was saying, it's my soul's journey. It was all about seeking love, seeking acceptance, trying to fit in. And I still struggle with that at times. I'll be honest with you. I still do. While I'm talking to you, I'm getting flashbacks of 20 years ago in law school, little snippets of incidents flashing in my head. Um, but that's going to be a large part of my soul's journey, and that's something that I'm continuously working on every single day. I'm blessed to have the support of my wife, who's on her journey, and she understands my journey as well. But it's the heart of what I believe is also the problem in today's world. Um, we really don't have a sense of who we are at deep down inside. Um, we're always chasing, we're always searching, we're always seeking, looking for the next big thing. We're all little magpies. If any of you remember Tintin and Bianca Castrofort had that magpie in one of the episodes. Yeah, they're always like, we like a little magpie who's trying to just pick out the next shiny thing to lash themselves onto, attach themselves onto. And I was a lot like that. I've played a bunch of whole different sports. I've tried different pursuits, different hobbies. Nothing's really stuck, um, until I realized that that was me. I was just looking out and trying these different things, not for the sake of expanding my horizons, but yes, it did end up expanding my horizons, but it was because I wasn't comfortable with who I was with, who I am, or who I was. And I was trying to fill all these little gaps in my life with different hobbies, different sports, different social circles, uh, fancy clothes, fancy watches. I had the money for it because I was a good lawyer. Uh, but deep down at the heart of it was only because I didn't like myself very much. And that's something I still work on every single day.
That was beautiful story about your self-compassion and where that comes from, but also understanding the wounds and the reasons why you are like that. And I think that's such a common thread in the conversations that we have on this particular podcast. It is about those moments of feeling out of place. It is about understanding that sometimes the things that we're looking for and seeking is that self-love, is that self-compassion. And sometimes we go through our life's journey of seeking it externally first. You have to go through the motions. You have to go through looking for success. I've been through
Yes.
that journey myself of climb the ladder, get to the top, and then you get there, you're like, oh crap, is this all there is? And then you have a redirection where you kind of go, okay, well, what does life have in store for me? And then moving towards that. The line about finding love for yourself and that being a journey, I remember vividly during COVID having a conversation with one of my best friends about this. And she's like such a beautifully wise person. And she just said, I feel like life's purpose is find love for ourselves. That's it. She's like, it's not about finding love in anybody else or somebody else to fill that void or to make you whole. It is about finding love for yourself. And that's all it is. And I remember that conversation, like what a lovely nugget perspective, because it just reminds me that I'm not here for external stuff. This is all nice, but it doesn't actually fill your soul.
Yeah.
And I think as well, like a lot of things that I've been exposed to through the healing space as well is it's kind of that purpose of you kind of grow and evolve just to figure out who you're actually born to be. Who were you born to be on day zero? Who was that person? And that's part of the rediscovering and the love for yourself and stuff. And Arjun, I just love how open you are about all of this, and that's something that resonates very strongly with me because I see the importance of that openness and that kind of grounded vulnerability amongst all of us, amongst humanity, and something that can really bring us together in operate from a place of love. But just moving on now a little bit, we've spoken about breathwork quite a lot, and I'm excited to dive into this in a bit more detail and to understand from you kind of where your mindset is with it, because at the moment there is a lot of hype around breathwork. It's in the tech space, it's in obviously the holistic wellness space, athletes are using it, it's been used in the corporate space, we hear it on podcasts, Huberman Lab, Diary of a CEO. You see it flash up on your Instagram screen all the time. There's a lot about breathwork. But it can sometimes be kind of oversold. I would just love to get an understanding from you about what is, I guess, your biggest misconception that people may have around breathwork, and is there anything you would like to clear up in this space?
Breathwork is not just for yogis or for the hippies. I think it's the biggest misconception, at least in India, at least. It's not just for the yogis or for the hippies. That's the biggest misconception. I think I would like to put the message out there. You and I, we all know this. We breathe, 25,000 times a day. Just a little act of bringing awareness to your breath is all that I really preach. Nothing beyond that. You want to go deeper and you want to explore the depths of your own subconscious, your past, your future, astral projection, great. We can help you with all of that as breathwork facilitators. But if you just bring a little awareness to your breath, you will bring a little more awareness to your life. And every single act or emotion that you do or that you express will all be rooted in awareness and mindfulness. And that's pretty much it in terms of what I try and spread the word about. I think the part that's slowly gaining attention in the beautiful Instagram world is nervous system regulation. And I think that to me at least should be sold. And I agree with everyone who's drumming their chest and standing on top of mountains and screaming about breathwork as a nervous system regulation tool, because it really took me the better part of 2 years after quitting law to realize how dysregulated my nervous system really was. I never really realized it, but it really took me the better part of 2 years to find coherence and resonance again. And I have a very visceral adverse reaction to stressors now. I went through this phase as well where I couldn't deal with any amount of stress after I quit the law, which is really surprising because I spent 20 years in that environment. And it was par for course. Like, stress is like breathing air. It's like drinking water. It happens. You deal with it. But it took me the better part of 2 years to figure out what dysregulation really was. I went through this phase where even a little amount of stress threw me right at the opposite end of complete shutdown. Like, absolutely. And it was the simplest of things. Organize a retreat oh no, I'm stressed about it. Shut down. It wasn't even anything of any grand magnitude. Let me just say, if your breath is not keeping up with your own systems and your own thought process, you're lying to yourself. And if you can just have that ability to swing between nervous system states and call upon action or call upon rest whenever you so choose to, I think that's something that I think the world really, really needs right now. Um, and that's something that we need to start much younger. We're talking about the corporates and the Instagrams and all the hippies and the yogis, but really, what's happening to those 13-year-old kids who have anxiety from school and are already on antidepressant SSRIs? What's happening to those 15-year-olds who are Instagramming and wanting to be like the person who they're seeing on that picture? What's their future hold for them? To me, yes, great, we can help out Olympic athletes and corporates and stuff like that, but really the future of the world is not with you and me, Paul. It's with the 11, 12, 13, 14 year olds out there. They're the ones who really need to understand what's happening to their nervous system. They're the ones who need to be retrained how to breathe. They're the ones who need to figure out what it means to be dysregulated, and they're the ones who really need to understand the difference between the different brain centers. I think if any messages out there is, if parents listening, it's your kids that hold the future to this world, and this message of how important self-regulation is should trickle down all the way to them, because the society that they are growing up in is not the same universe we grew up in. It's not. They have AI to compete with. They have dopamine hits every 5 seconds in 100 different forms. Social pressure, peer pressure. It's at a whole different level now. I mean, I have a 3-year-old daughter, so I can see the world that she's going to grow up in is very different than ours. So that's my message. Nervous system regulation, focus on the young kids. So at least the future is, so that I want to leave the world a little better in my social circle for the future generations, just a little bit.
It's making those small little bits of impact. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be grand. Yeah. It can just be in your own community, your family, your friends, your network. Yeah. We kind of take that thread a little bit. Your philosophy is when you own your breath, no one can steal your peace or happiness. If you can teach your 3-year-old or help parents think about that for their children, what are kind of maybe some steps they can take to help their children connect with their breath and understand it?
And I'll give you examples of what I've seen with my students or in my community. I think parents who consciously breathe and take their time out to breathe, and the children see them do it, they will naturally gravitate towards it, especially at a young age. It's something that is so intrinsic to our human nature to breathe, right? That's the first thing we do when we're born. And children mostly have beautiful breathing patterns. You don't need to teach them how to use diaphragm, how to expand and inflate and relax the exhale. You don't need to. And I've seen this a lot with parents who consciously lie down and spend their 10 minutes every morning or seated every morning and breathe. I've seen that children naturally gravitate towards it. And this is across all ages, whether it's from 4 to 15, they naturally gravitate towards it. We were all 15 one point of time. Did we really do everything that our parents told us to do? No, we did exactly the opposite. And imagine if you're trying to tell a 15-year-old or 14-year-old raging on hormones, sit down and breathe, it's not going to happen. But if you as a parent can just make the time out for yourself, which is really important for everyone as it is, and just breathe, you'll slowly find yourself, have a soundtrack playing in the background as well, no problem. You'll slowly find your child slowly aligning with that frequency and coming and sitting down next to you and maybe enjoying that piece of music and just finding that moment of stillness for themselves. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've actually really seen that would really help kids is if parents find time for themselves, the kids will naturally align to that frequency and also start finding that time for themselves. I think that's the most important thing. A breathwork cannot be preached to, unless you have a really health condition. Breathwork cannot be preached or forced down anyone's throat. It's not going to work, because there's a sense of ease and relaxation that you really need to feel in your own breath, and that can't be forced. The breath can't be forced. To me that's the most important thing. Secondly, something that I've been talking to a bunch of different schools at is again just creating awareness. We Today's generation, and this is, I'm borrowing from James Nestor and his book Breathe, the number of mouth breathers in children, and I see this as the number of kids walking in, is increasing manifold. 80% of the kids have orthodontic treatment done, braces, misaligned teeth. The number of mouth breathers is expanding. And that doesn't bode well for what their future health issues are going to be, obviously. And James and Patrick and all of these guys have extolled endlessly about it. So going to school and just trying to just create simple awareness patterns of stop mouth breathing, just focus on nasal breathing. And if you can fix that at a school level itself, whether it's during your PT class or even during 5 minutes after your lunch break, just spread the message of stop mouth breathing and just go back to nose breathing. I think that will slowly have a big difference. I've been talking to different schools about implementing different programs on trying to get that word out there, because I see a lot of that happening, a lot. And I these same kids who are mouth breathing are the ones who eventually evolve to, I have anxiety, I have depression, I have hypertension at a very young age, and that breaks my heart. The number of kids between the ages of 13 and 22, 25 who come to our studio for depression and anxiety is absolutely heartbreaking.
There's just so much stimuli going on around them, right? And you've covered a lot on just the awareness of breath, the stillness and the slowing down, just to be present with the breath, how it can be practiced as families or as an individual. But just obviously coming from a breath science background myself, just to expand a little bit, and you're talking about nasal breathing, what about in helping people actually down-regulate their system? So if they are in a place where they're feeling a bit stressed or they're feeling a bit anxious, is there a particular technique or practice you would recommend to help someone just down-regulate their system?
I keep it very simple. Nasal breathing with long exhales. As simple as that. You don't need to get too scientific about it and throw in box breathing and time for 5, out for 10, in for 5, out for 10, and have ratios and all of that. It's just very simple. Awareness on the breath, nasal breathing, slightly longer exhales. That's it. If you're really feeling immense build up and you feel like you need to let go, the natural human mechanism is to sigh. Use your physiological sigh. It's inbuilt in our systems any which way. It's nothing new I'm teaching you or Paul's teaching. It's inbuilt in our systems. Just take a couple of deep sighs, like deep inhale, let it go through your mouth, nose. I really don't care, however it is. Just let that energy leave the body, come back to breathing through the nose. Slightly long exhales, couple of minutes, and you should hopefully feel a little sense of calm, a little sense of ease.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I didn't want to say it with the longer exhale, but that's exactly the same with my practice. It's just having that longer exhale where you're nice and kind of relaxed. We're talking about breath quite a bit, but obviously with your Ujjayi movement and the approach you have with your studio, it's more than just breath, right? It's merging movement, mindful movement, yoga, and breath work. How do these, for our listeners, how do these practices kind of work together in your teaching?
They're two sides of the same coin, if I really think about it. At least that's the way how I approach it. We're moving day to day. We're not all sitting stationary in meditative pose with spine upright, right? We walk our dogs, we drive in cars, we lift suitcases, we carry our children, we run, we work out. If you, the idea is just to bring awareness to your breath through the day as much as you possibly can. Do you really need a dedicated breath practice? Yes, it would be ideal to have. But some people find it really hard to sit in one place or even lie down in one place and just breathe. But what I found in my experience and from my own personal experience as well is once you start combining the two, it gives people a very simple and a very relatable avenue for exploring the breath without having the added burden of saying, oh, my teacher said I have to sit down and do this.
Mm-hmm.
And that translates into functional movement, day to day life. How you breathe during a squat, if you go to the gym, and you work out, just be more aware of your breath when you're doing basic exercises like squats and deadlifts or dead bugs or whatever it be. I promise you, 99% of the people are probably holding their breath when performing reps. But if you realize you're not meant to hold your breath because that's really impacting your core, it's impacting your stability of your pelvic muscles. So try and integrate breath into movement will make you a stronger, more resilient body. When I say resilient, it'll have deeper capacity, not resilient in terms of just pure sheer strength. It will make you stronger mentally as well. And it will give you a sense of awareness. And Martin speaks about this a lot, right? In our course, interoception, a lot. It'll give you a deeper sense of interoception about your own self, proprioception about your body in physical space, and interoception is what's happening inside you as well. Um, my philosophy is I'm not training people to be superhuman versions of themselves. That is your journey. I'm just putting you on that path that if you really want to be the superhuman version of yourself, start integrating movement and breath. Combine them together. While I am qualified as a yoga teacher, I'll be honest with you, I borrow from all disciplines. I've done martial arts, I've done calisthenics, I've done weight training, I've done CrossFit. So I bring it all together. So my yoga class is not your traditional yoga class. We will be lifting kettlebells one day, we'll be working out with bands the other day. But every single movement is conscious, it's aware, it's mindful, it's coinciding with the breath. For me, breath and movement are like the interweaving strands of a DNA helix, how they just interweave through each other. It's when the body is moving, the breath helps you find stillness.
Love that.
Your classes sound amazing in terms of weaving
It's
all
fun.
the different type of things together.
Because the kind of clients I get, they still want to be able to go out and have fun and play with their children or run after their grandchildren or still explore. One day someone wants to go hiking. One day someone says, hey, I want to run a half marathon next week. You should be the best version of yourself that lets you do anything that you want to at any point of time. Hey, I want to sign up for this random Zumba class. And after the end of class, I promise you, none of my students will be sore the next day because they know how to work their bodies. New experiences will not, either physical or emotional experiences, will not throw them off kilter. Their bodies will not have soreness the next day because they're adapted to it. The recovery is better. It's about just enjoying everything that you do rather than saying, oh, I can't take this Zumba class because my hip hurts.
I am finding that with even PTs now, I saw one recently, they are starting to incorporate breath work into it. When I've tried boxing, they've been the same. One thing I did do when I was boxing, when I started, was hold my breath. And I was told, don't do that. You got to breathe with every step. It is great now that, more of those kind of physical trainers, fitness trainers are incorporating into their practices, but also how they guide and teach people through, routines or, functional movement as well. I think it's really cool.
I'm so glad to hear that. And our question for you, how's your recovery been post an intense workout now that you have breath work in your life as well? And question for both of you.
For me, I have really noticed I've been more conscious about my movement, and particularly because I'm coming back from an injury, like serious surgeries as well. The thing that I've noticed is that I do have more awareness of my body, which I probably wouldn't have in the past. In the past, I would have just gone through the movements, tell me what the functional movement is, I'll do the movement, and I just continue moving forward. Whereas with my current PT that I've had, she was like, okay, now this is when you breathe. This is when you need to move through to the next movement. And so my recovery has actually been a lot better, I would say. I don't feel as sore, but I do know that I've done the work. So that's how I see it.
Beautiful. Perfect.
And I would say I've used the breath for a long part of my life with having a background in professional sport and stuff. But back then it wasn't spoken about in the way that it is now. But really adapting to nasal breathing, I found has helped with my endurance in running and my recovery from running. And just that self-connection to your body. You go out for a walk or a run and you just focus on that nasal breathing, you focus on that connection. Like, it really can get you out of your head and back into your body.
So true. So true. No, I'm thank you for sharing that. Yes, that's exactly how I feel.
One thing I remember you saying when we caught up last is that your parents taught the art of living. I kind of want to know, what impact has that had on your life, and especially as you've gone through that transition in life as well and through career, but also looking forward?
Yes. Okay. So for the listeners who don't know what Art of Living is, let's just give a brief introduction of that. Art of Living was a movement founded by Sri Ravi Shankar here in India. Sri Ravi Shankar he was a child prodigy. He was reciting the Gitas at the age of 4, and he's a deeply, deeply wise man who knows potentially all the secrets to the universe and more. So he started this movement called the Art of Living, which is basically how to live wisely, how to live with compassion, how to live with authenticity, I would say. At the core of the philosophy of teaching of Art of Living is obviously a breathwork practice called the Sudarshan Kriya, which is also alluded to in James Nestor's book as well. So listeners who are curious can find some details. I think it's in the appendix as well. But it's more than just the breath work. The breath is, again, just a vehicle to connect with your more authentic, true nature of yourself. Earlier when I said, right, my mom in 2012, 2014, and my mom's also a yoga teacher as well. In 2012, 2014, when my mother actually said, do this breathwork course, it was actually the Sudarshan Kriya happiness program, as it was called then. Or Sky, as it's called now, is what she really asked me to do. And it was literally a combination of life philosophies simplified for the fickle-minded person like me I was at that point of time, combining life philosophies with introspection, with community and breath. I think these were the broad underpinnings of that course. And I did that basic course. I've done the advanced course multiple times as well. It's really, what I really love about the Art of Living is nothing. It's just like the name suggests. It's just the art of living. Look at yourself every single day. Tell yourself you love yourself. Look at people who you meet day to day. Look at them in the eye and tell them you love them, full stop, not you love them because. Breathe every single day. Move every single day. That's just very simple philosophy. Yes, all of this has deep underpinnings in yogic philosophy and Bhagavad Gita and spirituality and ancient texts and all of that. But that's just a very simple message that at least I gleaned from the Art of Living. And the yogic philosophy that I learned during that Art of Living was the one that I would say that still shapes my ideologies, my thought processes even today. Like in that happiness program, we very simple thing. One of the isms to live by was do not be a football of other people's opinions, right? Because if you do, you're just gonna get kicked around and passed around the place. So don't be a football of other people's opinions. Very simple, right? Presented in the most simplistic manner. And that's something that really resonated with me. And it brings me back to the conversation we had about my journey. And I'm still finding parts of myself and how I was looking for identity in other things. And that's something that really struck home was that, yeah, if I'm going to be a football of other people's opinions, I'm going to just get passed around and I'm not going to be able to find my goal. I'm just going to be someone else's goal. Um, so yeah, so like I said, that program is really deeply beautiful, as many others are. But that's the one I've personally experienced myself in many different forms, through proximity, through my parents as well, and that's something that I hold close to my heart, especially the philosophical side of it a lot. Um, and just one thing, the man per se is he has a raw childish sense of humor about him. If for the listeners who could just log on to some of his videos on YouTube, he's a he's very wise, but he's a child at heart, and that inner child in someone who's as wise as him hasn't diminished. And that's what I think attracts millions of people to him, is the fact that he can quote the most ancient texts from memory and rediscover and decipher them and present them in the most simplistic manner so that people like you and me can understand them. But he does this with this absolute childish nature, humorous. It's a joy to be in his presence.
That's so cool because it's like, I think the one thing that we as adults forget to do is we forget to give ourselves permission to play and permission to enjoy life. So I love that. I think it's fantastic.
Well said. Well said. No, what you were saying, Anne, is absolutely right. Yes, we as adults forget how to play. We forget how to laugh. We forget how to just laugh at ourselves. And it's something that's something that's close to my heart as well. The ability to just play and laugh and have fun and breathe.
So, Arjun, some great discussion points, a lot about breath, the importance of movement, and life being more about than just ourselves. As we start to wrap things up, there are probably going to be some lawyers, some bankers, some corporate professionals who end up listening to this podcast, and maybe in their own way they've felt a pull towards wanting to maybe transition into a new role. So that's maybe more aligned to their soul. Looking back at your journey, what advice would you give someone who is contemplating, I guess, leaving a successful career to following something that feels more aligned with themselves? Is there something that you think they really need to know before taking that leap?
Take the leap.
Just like that. Just jump.
Just jump. You will. It's like if a smoker wants to quit smoking, and I akin the high-paced dopamine rushed corporate life that some of like me led. Not everyone's like me, but led. It's almost like a little addiction. You want to get out of the addiction, but you cannot sit inside a smoking room surrounded by smokers and say, I've given up smoking, right? And that's again from my own personal experience. I tried doing that, but I was unable to. Maybe a person with stronger resilience and stronger metal could do that, but for me, I did not have the fortitude, I guess, or the inner gumption to be able to do that. And literally, like I said, it felt like I was sitting inside a smoking room surrounded by smokers and saying, I've quit smoking, I've quit smoking, I've quit smoking, I've quit smoking. Um, it's only really when I got out of the smoking room and I smelled my clothes and I looked at myself in the mirror that I realized I really hadn't quit smoking. Um, So that's the kind of example that's the classic example I like to give. The only caveat I would add to that is find alignment. Spend some time with your own self. Maybe take a 2 month break. Maybe take a brief sabbatical. Uh, Go to a sanctuary. Go to nature. Spend some time with yourself and rebalance your nervous system. Find that place of alignment. And if the calling at that point of time from that place of alignment and harmony is change your career to whatever else that you think that the universe has in store for you, trust that blindly and completely, because at that frequency of alignment, it's a very clear path that is being shown to you, and it's a choice we all make at that point of time to do or not to do. But at that position of alignment, in that position of coherence, if you're getting that clear message, just have complete trust and jump. um, the last thing I would say is, we think that life is really short. Yes, it is. But on the other hand, given there's this really beautiful book called The 100-Year Life, which actually really says that we're all at, if we take care of ourselves and given the advancement of medical sciences, we're going to live to 100. I quit when I was 42. Did I see myself being a lawyer for another 42 years of my life? No. But you have another 42 years to explore whatever it is you want to do. And after a couple of years of exploration, if you don't like it, you can come back to law. Great. I may not be an equity partner at a law firm anymore. That's absolutely fine. I've lived a little, laughed a little, explored a little. So don't think of life in what will happen to me tomorrow. I will not have any money thereafter. Obviously, if you have a family and kids, financial stability and all is super important. I'm not demeaning any of that, right? So you need to have that foundation set. You're not going to leave people abandoned. But think of your life as your soul's journey over 100-year period, and you spent 18 years at home, school, studying, potentially another 18 years out there in the world, discovering parts of yourself, maybe a corporate job, maybe something else. But that's not even half your life as of now. What you want to do for the next 50 years of your life. Zoom out and see the larger picture.
I think that's great. You've still got plenty of life to live. You've still got plenty of things you can do. And essentially you want to enjoy living, and you want to enjoy doing what you do.
Well, thank you, Arjun. Thank you for sharing your life's journey so far, your wisdom, and also the insights and philosophy at the end. It's really beautiful for people to step away from this and reflect on their own life and where they're at and what they can do to incorporate more joy, give themselves more permission to explore and to see what purpose life has for them rather than the other way around. I think that will be, a really nice reflection point for a lot of people to have. If you'd like to know more and to see what Arjun gets up to, he also works with individuals, corporate clients, fostering conscious communities and helping people harness the power of breath to manage stress, anxiety and physical challenges. You'll be able to find him at the Ujjayi Studio in Bangalore, India. And we thank you again, Arjun. Thank you for joining us.
No, thank you so much. I did not even realize that we've just spent a better part of an hour and just chatting. I love conversations like these, and thank you so much, both of you, for your time. Lots of love to both of you. I really do hope we get to see each other in person.
I hope that we can make that happen as well. Thanks for listening to Out of Place. If something in today's episode resonated with you, let us know or share it with someone who might need it too.
Or leave us a review on Apple, a rating on Spotify, a like or comment on YouTube, because it helps more than you know. You can read more about each episode's topics on Substack as well. To learn more or connect with us, head to Instagram and look up Out of Place, spelt Plaece.
We're so grateful to be building this alongside you. Here's to finding your way, even when it feels a little out of place. We'll see you in the next episode.